back to the Rev Mel Show on TSRnetwork.com. And if you're watching the show, you're watching it from the chat room now. So, make sure that you click on the little icon that has the camera and the audio thing and click it on so you can see the show. And there's a little green thing in there. If you click on that, you can make the screen bigger. In fact, you can even make it full screen. So welcome back to the Rev Mel, which my wonderful, wonderful guest is Mistress Melissa. Woo.
Well, thank you.
Well, we were asking questions, and we got on a topic, and we were going to go into it in this segment. Something about your family.
Yes. We were just discussing how conservative they were when I was growing up and what have you, and because I have mom and dad, and then I have an older brother and I have a younger brother. Older brother is, his dad was off and doing what he does, and he's a hedonist. And mom was very, growing up, very conservative and things like that, or so we thought. Older brother is a very conservative Marine who raised me, pretty much. He was the paternal figure in the family. And younger brother is kind of followed suit with me, and he's a very, very, he's a very powerful switch. He's a very powerful switch.
So you have a kinky family?
I do, and I just found out recently, and this was a kicker for me. I was on the phone to my mother a few months back, and she was asking me because she'd read some of my, my website stuff and my bios, and she was like, so, what kind of, training do you do with she calls them my people.
Your peeps.
My peeps.
Peeps.
And I said, well, I do an old leather guard and Gorian discipline, and then out of nowhere, she starts quoting the books of gore. I mean, John Norman, scripture. And I was just like, what the fuck? And she was like, oh, yeah, I've had 20 of those volumes since I was 20 years old. I was like, you whore. Were my exact words. And she was like,
did she just read the books or did she participate? Because let's talk about, you are in the BDSM lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Aha, so now we're talking about BDSM.
Yeah.
So what did she get involved in BDSM or just read the books?
She read the books. I believe she engaged in it when she was younger, before she married my dad. They married at 17, so, younger teen years. And then right now, she divorced my father after 32 years of marriage. Thank goodness, because they're much better people for it. And she actually lives as a lifestyle collared submissive right now.
Your mom does?
My mom does, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she was quoting the books of gore, and it's and she's talking about her boyfriend and their live-in situation, and he takes care of me, and I have my collar, and I was just like, you have been holding out this whole fucking time, you bitch. Because we have a dialogue that's that comfortable between us. And she was like, well, it's not really something you share with your kids. I'm like, yeah, but it took you how long? To kind of.
Oh my God! But did she know you were in this lifestyle?
Absolutely, and
all this time.
About 10 years ago, when I first started performing on stage and things like that as a heavy bottom, she through just a wacky course of events found whip lacerations on my back, and she hit the roof, and we had a whole issue about it, and she was like, oh, why do you do what you do, and this, that, and the other. And it was just almost knockdown, drag out drama.
Wow.
And that was 10 years ago. And then to find out, and I was like, well, and I asked her, I said, well, what the hell was all that about back there? And she goes, well, at that time, I didn't think you were coming at it from the right motivations. And I was like, fair enough.
So how did you get involved in BDSM?
I got involved in BDSM through the bedroom and kinky sex and things like that. And I was always very aggressive and audacious in the bedroom, so to speak. Some things never change. But, and so I was just always doing restraint.
But you knew this at an early age, though.
I knew this at an early age. I mean, in retrospect, of course, there was always I was always tying up neighborhood girls, power exchange. My younger sibling, I duct taped him to a wall because I wanted him to stay put.
Wait, you duct taped it to the wall?
Yeah, he was about 2 years old, and I duct taped him to the wall.
Did he have clothes on? Because
oh yeah, he had clothes on. Everything was clothed.
Yeah, you know how it is to duct tape somebody on their skin.
I do. And and I was a sadist from a young age. But and I duct taped him to the wall. In another instance, I found a pair of antique handcuffs that one of my father's friends had given him to him as a joke, and they were broken. And I didn't know that. And I was about maybe 11 or 12, and my younger brother was like maybe 2. And I put him around his ankles. And my mother had to take him to a locksmith, like over the shoulder, take the baby to the locksmith with handcuffs hanging off of him.
God.
Yeah, she had some splaining to do because there was actually a police officer at the locksmith.
Lucy.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got some explaining to do.
And my mom she's a very assertive Leo, and she just looks at the cop and goes, you know what, there are 3 kinds of people in this world that had handcuffs. Just so you know, there are people in uniform, there are people who are kinky people, and then there are people who have husbands who have friends with a sense of humor. I'm the 3rd one. And
Wow.
the cop just laughed.
But these days, they might have taken him to child services.
Yeah. There might have been some phone calls made or what have you, but.
Wow, so you knew at an early age that you were into kink, and you were a sadist from the beginning of time.
Apparently, you know.
And how did you discover BDSM itself? I mean, she does a lot of. Or did you get into performance art in BDSM before you got into the lifestyle? Because you are not. She's got many different titles. Let's talk about the different titles because it's not just, let's talk. You've been a dominatrix.
I am a professional mistress.
Professional mistress. You are a lifestyler, and you are also a performance artist.
Yes.
That's
backslash. No, but yeah.
But there's a lot of times you won't find that.
Yeah.
You won't find all of those different things. But, I think with the younger generation that's coming up, we are finding those.
Which I think is really beautiful and fantastic.
But you are in that younger generation.
I don't know where one stops and starts sometimes. It's a matter of heart, I guess.
So I've heard the story of how she got into the performance art of it, but we're going to talk about it. Okay, tell me, you went to a club.
I did. I actually went to Dungeon when it was over off of Las Palmas and Hollywood Boulevard.
In Hollywood.
In Hollywood. And I walked in, and just the energy, I just felt right at home. And I was just like, I could breathe. I was there by myself.
Yeah.
And I just walked in, and there was S&M stage shows going on, performance art. And I was completely and totally 100% I was just drawn to it. Yeah. And just the energy that entailed. And, I've told this many times, I saw the dominant and the submissive, performing. And I was never one of those people that were like, I want to be the girl being spanked. I was like completely and totally 100% enamored with the dominant. And I was like, I want to be that when I grow up. How do I get there? And they were like, you have to start here. And I said, okay.
So you started out as a submissive. Oh, we have a chat question. So the question is what?
Robert wants to know if there's a difference between a dominatrix and a mistress.
Is there a difference between a dominatrix and a mistress? I think there is.
Absolutely. A dominatrix is more of a occupational title that describes, what you do for a living. Mistress is more of like a chosen title or given title or earned title. Many dominatrixes, they will use the title either lady, goddess, madam, mistress, whatever their preference is. I'm just kind of old school that I'm just mistress, it just is me.
Is a dominatrix gets paid?
A dominatrix does get paid.
And a mistress not necessarily gets paid.
Not necessarily. And mistress doesn't necessarily mean the other woman that the married man is sleeping with. Thank you. But it's a mistress can be like, because I do have many folds, it can encompass all of those.
Yeah. So when you went to this club and you saw you wanted to be, a dominant, you wanted to be the sadist of a two-party dance, because that's what it is. It's like a dance.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's absolutely beautiful to watch two people when they connect together to do a BDSM scene.
Oh, yes.
So when you got into that lifestyle, where did you go? Who did you see? Who was your mentor? Where did you go?
My goodness. Questions.
I know. It's all about you.
Well, I'd already been participating in switching, sexually and things like that. And actually, the dominant that I had seen on stage was Sir Nick. And I had actually approached a young woman, and who's now my ex-girlfriend. But and I was just like, I started asking questions, and just things like that. And she goes, you would be really amazing up there. And I was like, okay, well, what do I have to do to do
As
that?
a dominant or as
a
a submissive?
And I said, I'm completely open to learning. And they told me, if you want to get there, you have to start as a submissive.
Yeah.
And it was just hot branded into me from just like that very beginning that the best bottoms make the best tops. And I was like, okay, what do I have to do? And she
Where
was
do
like,
I sign up?
yeah, where do I sign up? What do I have to do? And she handed me, she introduced me to Sir Nick. And
What was your first thought about Sir Nick when you saw him? Because he's a very remarkable, interesting looking person.
He is. I thought he was absolutely beautiful. There was not so much a sexual connection between he and I. It was more of an enamoration. And I was just like, his energy and everything, I was like, he is amazing.
Yeah.
He is amazing. And if anybody I would want to, be under, that would be the person.
Yeah.
And it was off and running from there for a very long time. And I found myself being, kind of led to the restroom in the club and my boobs being played with by a very hot fetish model, beautiful lady. And I was like, this can't be all bad at all.
I like kink.
And I was like, okay, yeah, where do I go? But, I always had my limits and things like that. And it was really funny because for a very long time, actually, Sir Nick thought I was a lesbian. And because it was, the whole situation of our introduction.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about 3 years into us performing together on stage that I had a rough sex with a partner of mine, and I was bruised, and I went to go perform, and he was like, who the fuck did this to you? And we, Sir Nick has his little idiosyncrasies, which we love. And I pointed off the stage to the very large buff biker that was there with eyeliner on, and he was like, and he yells on stage, he goes, I thought you were gay. And I was like, you never asked.
I'm bisexual.
You never asked. But yeah, we always had the kind of rapport with each other, so it was really fantastic because
he is such a character. I mean, we went to his going away party. He moved up to San Francisco, and she got up and she did a little roasting of him.
I had to do a little roasting of him. I really couldn't help myself, and it was really fantastic. But I absolutely accredit him for being my inspiration, my mentor, because I was like, I never really had somebody sit down at that time and go, this is how you spank, this is how you flog, this is how you do this, this is how you do this, this is how you do this. I kind of like emulated what I absorbed, and I took that into a private setting, and I did a lot of practicing, and very shortly before or after I started performing on stage with Sir Nick as bottom, I started working as a professional submissive. And I was, it was fun. It was great. I was a heavy masochist, so I was like, not a problem. We can do this.
So are you a switch?
No, I'm not a switch.
Woo.
No, I'm not a switch.
Wow.
The only way that I even remotely live out my masochistic tendencies is taking flesh hooks. And it's not in an S&M, DNS psychological exchange format.
We're going to talk about the flesh hooks, but we're going to wait on that one.
But yeah, a lot of people ask me if because there's a lot of dynamics to many different dominants. Some dominants are dominant when they're in public, or if they're only at work or what have you, and then they're switch or they're submissive at home. And I'm dominant across the boards.
Your husband is a dominant also, isn't he?
He is a dominant.
Yeah. How does that work? I mean, two dominants, how do you dom each other? I mean,
we don't really dom each other.
Nope.
That's the thing, is we have a very amazing communication. It's built on 100% communication, respect, boundaries, and